to dig in a little bit on what it looks like to do data governance. In most organizations, you have, at this point, the appointed position of a chief data officer who owns the overall strategy around governing, managing, and potentially valuing the data assets in your organization. If you watched the keynote earlier today, you got a lot of insights into different ways that you can do that and to increase the value. And that chief data officer works with a set of data stewards who are aligned to the people in the business that are actually delivering on the value to make sure that they understand which data is most important. And then underneath of them sit a set of data stewards and data custodians who are out there working on improving the data's capability to meet the guideposts that I just shared, improving the data quality, ensuring data is available and potentially cataloged. And when you fast forward, as people have gone through this cycle 4 or 5 times of spinning this up, what this looks like in many places in 2020 is pretty much the same. There's just more data stewards and more business unit leads being involved in the process. The whole thing has become very heavy and cumbersome. And the head count has gone up. The amount of time that these people spend in meetings has gone up dramatically, because ultimately, once you start to hit a certain point of scale, manual processes add overhead that is just communication and management layers that aren't really adding value. So in reality, when you look at one of the key measures, and we could say this around most of the others as well, it stayed somewhat flat over time. Now, looking at this, it's pretty clear, and I think that almost everyone agrees that this is a problem. This is something that we need to address in order for most organizations and to be able to start to leverage data at scale. Even those that are out there as leaders right now, the social media companies and tech giants, actually still struggle with this, and you're starting to see it. The overall techlash term that you're hearing around people being fed up with the way that their data is not necessarily being governed and managed for consistent use, is starting to come back to bite those companies. So given that we have what seems to be a systemic problem, it really means that we need to start to think about a more systemic change in order to fix it. So we don't need to just worry about the events or the patterns and trends that I'm talking about here, but ultimately we have to go all the way to the bottom of the iceberg and look at the mental models that drive people into these ways of thinking around manual governance application, councils and committees, stewards who are outside the process of actually delivering the analytics that drive value. In other words, maybe we need to reframe the whole problem. So I was introduced to a book by Kees Dorst within our company here. Reframing of problems has led to some really interesting solutions. He was looking at this in societal problems, like how do you manage crime in urban areas where many people are going out, or how do you manage public works of art that are often being used for protests. And it's by reframing the way that you look at those problems that you can come up with innovative new solutions to them. In his example, one of the most interesting ones is looking at the Sydney Opera House, where people are protesting and using that public work of art as a venue for their statements that they want people to see. So instead of banning anyone from getting near the building, what they decided to do was take the example of a public work of art and make it so that you couldn't actually do that because people are always there. They encouraged more people to come in, which took away people's ability to set up these types of protest displays alongside what was supposed to be there. So thinking about it in a new way gave them a new way to solve the problem. For me, when I was thinking